that earlier this week. And so glad that you can take the time to come learn a little bit more about it. I'm going to draw your attention to in your webinar controls. You should see that there is an opportunity to send a chat message. So if you want to ask a question along the way, we'll see if we can answer some of those, or maybe at the end if we have time. And if we don't, then we can follow up with you after the fact. So feel free to use that. Maybe you can just send me a chat message at the moment. Somebody can. Let me know you can hear me and you can see the screen all right. You should be seeing that now. So hopefully that works. Perfect. Looks like somebody responded there. Great. So we're going to start out. First thing, before we get into the actual features in the software, I'm going to wanted to make you aware of one of the things that we pointed out in the email, and that was related to BizTrack. If your company is a BizTrack point of sale system user, one of the things that has become available in this software release is a export file from PrebuiltML or Estima that will more easily go into your BizTrack point of sale system. So you can take a material list that you complete in PrebuiltML or Estima and take that into your BizTrack software so that it can be priced and put into your bid system and so on. So if you are a BizTrack user and would like to take advantage of that, be in contact with us and we can let you know about how to do that. And there was a question there about if we're going to demo the BizTrack process today. We're not going to do that today, but generally it's pretty straightforward as far as from the Estima side. It's just that you would generate a file type in the export process at the end, either as a part of your Publish tab or a part of your reports exports. And if you want more information, we can certainly help you out with that. All right, so I'm going to start here with the Profile tab. So in the profile, one of the things, we've made a few additional places where we've improved the the import and export capabilities for a couple of the tabs. We had done this in the previous version for a few, and we've added on a couple more. One of them is the Kits tab. So now when you choose to export your kits, previously you had kind of a filter option, but now you actually get a full list of the different kits that are available, and you can check and select or deselect the ones that you would want to be in that export and send them out. In a similar fashion, over in the Presets tab, you also have a similar type control where you can choose to export in the upper left-hand corner. And again, you'll get this time a whole list of all the different presets. Select the ones that you would want, deselect others, and then complete the export process. And now you have a file that will contain only the specific ones that you have need of. So moving on then to the more of the plan side of things. So I'm going to come to the plan tab, and I'm going to look here. And one of the things that we've added in relates to details. Add a detail tag, and just based on some user feedback, we added in a few other detail options. And they were R15 and R7 and R5. Some of those you can't see in my list here because it's near the bottom of the screen. But if you use or make use of those detail tags and needed some more options, then those are available to you to use. Another small change related to callout lines. In previous versions, when you started the callout line tool up here, the annotation callout line, when you drew a line, the operation would be ended at that point. But now we've changed it based on some feedback that you can continue to draw more callout lines if that is what you need to do, and then just escape the operation like you would do with all the other drawing tools. So callout tools continue to draw now instead of just being ended after one operation. For areas, we've now added in a new way to draw areas. That's basically a box draw of an area. So if I come to an area tool here and I hold down the Shift key on my keyboard and click the area tool to start it, you can see the little tooltip says container rectangle, meaning now I'm going to be drawing something in a rectangle mode. So I just click the upper left-hand corner and drag across and click the lower right-hand corner, and I've now calculated that area with just 2 clicks. And I can continue to draw those as we go. So similar to the box subtract section feature that we already had previously, but now you can make use of that for drawing actual areas. And the same would be also true for floor containers and roof containers as well. And the same is also true for presets. So if you come to a preset and again hold down Shift when you make that selection, then you can go forward and draw with the area. And then a final way you can access that, for those of you who would want to, you can select the area and then you can hold down Shift, or I should say you right click, and then as you choose draw more sections like this, if you hold down the Shift key at that point, again, you will get that behavior, so where you can continue to draw in a rectangle mode instead of just the click to point mode. So area box draw is now an option or a feature. I'm going to shift to a different page here. One of the things that we've introduced for the linear tool is the ability to draw an arc. So here we have a deck that has a little arch on the front of it. So if I wanted to find out the length from here and go around the arc and come across to here, I can do that now with the linear tool. I'm going to select the linear tool, and I'm going to trace along this line. I'm going to make a point where that arc starts, and I'm going to keep on going straight and come to the other end of the arc and then just finish off on this side. So now what I can do is I can select the specific segment that I want to be an arc. So this 18-footer in the center, I'm going to right-click on it, and I now have the option to come to line, and I'm going to change it to an arc. And as I do, I get an arc fashion, and I have an additional control node here in the center of that arc, and I can drag that arc just anywhere I want it to be along the path of that circle or that arc that's there. So I drag and drop it, and now I've got my arc in place. So now I know that I've got 29 feet along that edge, 7 over here, and 7 over here. And you can have multiple arcs in a linear section or group of lines. So I could come here to this 7-footer, and I could also make this an arc, and I could have more arcs down here if I wanted. So arcs are now available for linear lines, which can then be linked to walls or other type objects that way. I'm going to come back up here then to this page again, and we've also introduced for the idea of linear or ortho node movements. So here I've drawn a beam on the page. It doesn't go quite to the outside of the edge of the container. And let's say I wanted to adjust that and get that to line up with the outside edge. If I come here to the edge of the end of this beam and I select and I drag upward, notice that as with previous versions, the node just kind of goes wherever you take it. There wasn't a way previously to make that go perfectly straight up on the page. But now if you hold down Shift on your keyboard as you are dragging a node, you are activating an ortho type function. So now you can see that as I move, that node moves in an ortho fashion. Or if I was to move left and right, again, that node is following that pattern. So by holding down Shift, you can move nodes in an ortho type fashion. Same would be true for multiple nodes, like on a container. If I selected this node and I wanted to shift this whole container out, again, I can select them, drag, hold Shift down, and now those nodes are moving in a orthos type fashion. Just drop them, and now that whole container shifts out in perfect orientation of flat horizontal on the page. Another item of the digitizer is the ability to relink items or to copy them to multiple places that you want them to be linked. So as just an example, I've drawn off to the side here just a little container, and it has on it, we'll just pretend that this is a unit. So imagine maybe more of a high density housing realm where you're going to draw one unit like unit A, and then you're going to maybe use it on multiple different floors and would prefer not to have to draw it multiple different times. So what you can do is you can draw the unit or apply this in any other area that you would like to. But I'm going to select everything. And over here in the takeoff items list, you can see that nothing's linked yet. And of course, previously, I can hold down Control, right-click, and I can come to Move Selection to Pack. This existed previously, so I'm going to set this to be Unit A, first floor. And now I've done that, and I've linked everything. Everything's linked like it should be. It's over in the back. Let's say now that I also want this same thing to be in a different pack, Unit A, second floor, and I'm going to use maybe pack multipliers with those to multiply the appropriate amount of units for each floor. So I can select this again and hold down Control and right-click, and now I also have this option to copy selection to pack. So I'm not just going to move it, I'm actually going to copy it. So I'm going to go back down to this unitized list, and this time I'm going to go to the Unit A, second floor. Make that selection, and look over here what happened in the takeoff items list. Here are some of these items. You can see that the first item that I linked, like for this floor decking, it's going to Unit A, first floor, like you would expect. But when I did that copy to pack option, an additional child item was created, indicating that this floor decking is linked in multiple places, Unit A, first floor and the Unit A, second floor. I could repeat that and do that even for a third floor. But now those items are linked to both packs, and if I make adjustments to Unit A, it will be making updates to both of those pack locations. And we can come over here to, we can come over and look at that in the list, and we'll look at that in just a moment. One final thing in the digitizer relates to wall assembly, copying and pasting wall assemblies. Previously, when you copied a wall assembly from one page to another, it didn't necessarily keep all of the, if it was a linked wall assembly, it didn't keep all the information about that wall assembly as you copied it from page to page. So for example, let's say that we had this page here, and let's say there's a next floor up above this that is pretty much a copy of it when it comes to the wall assemblies, and so we want to just take all these walls and paste them on the next level up. I'm going to select all these walls, and I'm going to copy them. And I'm going to go to this next page, which we'll just kind of assume is the next page up, and we'll paste them onto this page. But before I do, I'm going to come to the default pack. This is the important part. I'm going to set the default pack for this pack of main wall again. And I'm going to paste it, Control V, and those wall assemblies are going to be generated. But since there's a default pack set, program is able to take the information from the walls that were already linked above and bring those across to this next pack and copy those values in. So here they are all pasted. And if we come over at the list, this is what we'll find. In the list tab, here's our main wall. This is like the original wall collection. You can see it has different wall heights, 9s, 15s, 16s, 18s, and so on, as well as perhaps other settings that are inside of the wall assembly. And if we come to this next level, main wall again, where we pasted the wall assemblies into, previously all of these would have come in as just 8-foot walls, basically just the standard wall assembly with no special things attached to them. But now with this version, when you paste wall assemblies in the format or the pattern that we just used, you will get all of those settings coming along with the wall assemblies. So that can be especially useful if you're especially in the high density housing realm where you have a lot of floors that are stacking on top of each other and want to bring those along the way. More on the list side, speaking of wall assemblies, you'll remember last time that we introduced a new feature, not so much for wall assemblies, but just in general, where you can come to a specific product and you can choose to update identical products. And the option there was that you can find 4x12 Doug for number 2, and you can define that you want it to be changed to something else. And you could have that affected to only header applications or all applications where this product is used across. And you could also define that based on a specific location, like the same pack, all lists, so on. Based on some feedback we got from users, they wanted one more level of control that you guys wanted, and that was when it came to wall assemblies. If I open a specific wall assembly and if I came to exterior bottom plate here, let's say I wanted to make it treated, I'd choose update identical products, And let's say I want to make 3x6 Doug for number 2, and I want to make it treated. But before, I could only apply this to exterior bottom plates. Whereas now, based on your feedback, you have the option to apply this to all bottom plate applications in all wall assemblies. And then, of course, you can set that for just that pack. So you have that additional control there in that feature that we had released last time. Looking further down here, as far as things that have changed in the list area, another one relates to how lists or pack copied. Right now, you have another option in your copy pack function. So if I come to my pack here and choose copy pack, a new option is to retain links, meaning if you have items that are linked in that pack, instead of just bringing across the input value, they now will actually retain your link to that item as well. So if I select that box, click, and we'll call this, new so that it stands out. And so I copy this first unit A 4-pack, and the new pack comes in, and I've chosen to retain the links. And so because I've done that, I have those items linked. And if we were to look in the digitizer, we would see that those items also have a child item added on, because that's another place where that item has been linked. Another option that we can work with is something that's already existed is report multipliers for packs. So we can set a report multiplier here. But what we've added in this version is we now have the option to have a list multiplier. And now over in the reports tab, you previously had a functionality like this. You could do a report, and you could, down in this section, you could edit that report and do some things with multiplying lists. That functionality still exists, and it's still available for you to use. But we felt that you also needed a more consistent approach to multipliers when it came to lists. So now you can actually right-click on a specific list, and you can add a list multiplier in. So now you have list multipliers for those specific lists. So in this case, unit A first floor is going to get multiplied 4 times, but then it's also going to get multiplied again 2 times. And then if you were to make a setting over here in the reports tab and settings here, it would get multiplied again. So these multipliers are going to compound on top of each other, just so that you're aware that that's how they function. They do build on top of each other. They're not exclusive from one another. So we have list multipliers, and I think couple more things when it relates to the reports. Come over here to our house list. Here I'm coming to report, and a few things. First of all, if we choose to view a report, we can have a notes page. Previously, that wasn't included in the Excel export, but now if you export your file to Excel, and it's a report that included notes in it, you will have an additional tab in your Excel export. So here's the Excel export that we just exported, and down near the bottom, here's the tab that you've always had before. But since there were notes included with this particular report, then we now have a different tab that includes all of those notes. And in addition, we've added those line references into the Excel report as well. So those same things that you're used to on the other report style, where the above note references comment, that is here as well. Also on the report side, or in the reports tab, you have the ability to run a report without any waste applied to it. So you can, in a sense, you could think of it as you're running a report that sort of removes any of the extra waste materials that you may have built into your estimate. So it works like this. Here I'm going to click view on this report before we make this change. And let's come take a look down here. And we'll find the construction adhesive. So if you can see that, maybe we'll zoom in a little bit. 7 tubes of construction adhesive. And of course, that includes the waste factor that's been applied there, I think 10%. But if I was to come to this report, and for the settings, I choose use 0 waste factor. Click that, click OK. And now I'm going to choose to run this report again. And this time, it's going to go through the project, eliminate the waste percentages that were involved, and basically run the report as if there was zero waste being applied. And you can see here at the top, it even has a little note that's saying using zero waste, so that's clear that's what's happening. But if, as we look, you can see that that same construction adhesive line item now only has 34 quarts to it because we've eliminated that extra waste. And if you were to return to the list tab though right now, note that your list still contains all of those, all of the waste. Here's the adhesive, and it still has the waste 10 on it. And there's a few other places in here resulting in that total of 37 tubes. So that's the feature in the Reports tab where you can have zero waste. And then going on to finally the framing layouts. Let's see here. We have the option to include an extra notes page. So if we view framing layouts right now, functionality you're used to, you get your framing layout, but you can also choose to include this checkbox. And if you view it at that point, any notes that relate to the material that is on the framing layout will be pasted there. So that would include project notes and list notes, as well as any specific line item notes if they were included in that framing layout material. And if you have this checkbox turned on, if you're a Publish tab user, this checkbox setting here will be respected as you generate your framing layouts from here. So if your checkbox is set on the layouts, as you publish your framing layouts at the end, they will include that notes page. So that's most of the other features. And now, I guess to finish it off, we said save the best for last, if you will, and that is we wanted to talk about the quick check features. This is the feature that we especially highlighted as we as we send out the email to you all. And so that's here in the project tab, this new tab called Quick Check. And it's in a position on purpose along the project tab. Maybe if you haven't noticed it before, but the project tab is arranged more in like your progression of job. So you might come to the general tab, enter project information, make some settings for your lumber grades and species that are unique to that project, same with sheathing, and then you work on your list. Maybe add some notes in along the way. And then before going to framing layouts and reports and producing your output, we've inserted this other tab here called Quick Check. The goal of Quick Check is to provide a quick check of your project that you've completed and bring information and put it in front of you so that you can check to see if, hey, are there some obvious things here that I should have caught? And the goal is to, without much extra on your part, allow you to elevate or increase the quality of your estimates that you're performing. So I'm going to come here to the list tab. I'm going to get rid of this just for simplicity. I'm going to remove this list. And here in the house tab, so we've got this house list. I'm going to come to Quick Check. And there's two different parts. The first is what we would call the general information side. The goal of this section is to present you with information. It's not necessarily anything wrong about it. It's more just to give you a different look at your project and provide you things that would otherwise be difficult for you to gather. So I'm going to hit the refresh button. The Quick Check tab is not live. You need to refresh it to find the latest results. So we're going to click the refresh button here for the general information side. And here's some of the different pieces of information that I provided. It shows you how much floor decking is being used and how much square footage is involved. Stud quantities by wall type, stud on center spacings that are used. So for example, if you knew that there should have been a 12-inch on center wall in there somewhere and you don't see it, that might be a flag. Wall sheathing types, different sizes that you're using, how much square footage for each. Gable sheathing. So here's something perhaps for your case is we have two different types of gable sheathing. Maybe that's right in your project, but maybe it's wrong. Maybe you actually specified two different types and you didn't mean to. Roof decking. So here's another example, the square footage that it's at as well as the pitch. So if you glanced through this list and noticed that there was a 012 pitch in here because you forgot to pitch your roof container, that would show up. So again, just different things. Oh, and then finally siding, all the different types of siding you're using as well as the total. And so that might be useful for you in gathering information as you go along. So just information that you might otherwise would be laborious for you to actually collect, and we just kind of consolidate it all into one place so you can make a quick review of your job. You have a settings button for this section where you can control what types of things that you want to see. Notice that we only will show you something if it actually is there. So here we're set to view things like landing decking. We don't have any here because there was none called in the project. Maybe that would be a flag to you as you get used to using this quick check tool. But if some of these things are things that you don't want to ever look at, it would just be extra information like stud quantities. You can uncheck the box, click OK, and now it's refreshed and you won't have to look at that extra information anymore. So you can make settings for what your preferences are that you would like to see. So that's the general information side. On the other side is what we would call the potential errors. And so let's run this for this list. We have this job that we've performed here, and we've completed our list. We're about ready to send it out the door, and we'll hit the refresh button here for this section. We can also hit the refresh up here, which is a master refresh for both the general information and potential errors side. So we'll do that, and it's going to run through the project and look for things that might possibly be wrong. So here, we'll just look at the top, and we'll notice that things are organized by list, pack, and plan. And there is also possibly you might have things in a project level as well at times. So here with this top line item, it says missed related application. Called rafter, no ceiling joist anywhere in the list. So this this particular rule that's been put in place, it knows to check that, hey, if you call rafters, I'm going to look somewhere in the list and make sure that you've actually called ceiling joist, because 95% of the time that's what you should do. Or and maybe that's true for you, maybe it's not, but that's how the rule works. And so it brings it to your attention. Now, maybe in this case, this is fine. We didn't necessarily need ceiling joists. And so we can choose to dismiss this rule. To do that, I can right-click on the item like this and choose Ignore Error. Or to accomplish the same thing, I can just simply click on the icon itself. I can click Ignore Error. So I do, and when I go through that step, it gets grayed out, which it still shows you that, hey, there was something here, but it also flags it and says, okay, it's fine. I looked at it and it's okay in this case. Let's look at another one. How would we actually resolve a problem? Again, another missed related application. I called roof decking, no roof shingles anywhere in the list. Oh, okay, so I was like, well, that's good. I needed to call roof shingles. So in this case, I can go back to my list and I'll go to my roof and I'll just quickly add in a roof shingles application. And I'll call some roof shingles, just call whatever, 400. Okay, so I'll come back to quick check. Again, this isn't live. You need to hit the refresh button, so we'll do that. And when we do, notice what happens. That error goes away completely because now we've addressed and resolved that. But if you were watching, you might have seen there was another error that showed up down here that, oh, look, I've called roof shingles, but no underlayment. That's interesting. Well, maybe I should address that. But you get the idea. You can address these things or not. Here's another one. I've called 1 1/4 floor joists, and there's no material with matching depths. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if I called, a 9-inch rim when I should have been calling something that went along with the 2x12s that I was specifying. So some of these things may have logical or reasonable explanations for you in the type of work you do, but other ones may just be real flags that, oh, hey, I better check that out. In this lower section of plan, we tend to especially bring to your attention those items that you've drawn and you've assigned applications or products to, but you never actually linked them. So we bring those to your attention just to make sure that, hey, you sure you didn't want to miss any of those. Now, as you've seen some of this, hopefully this is striking a chord with you that you can see, oh yeah, I could see how this could be useful to me, especially just, invest 2 or 3 minutes a job just to come in here, take a look, and hopefully find that I didn't miss anything obvious. But you probably, if you're thinking down that road, you're probably also thinking, well, there's, as you look at my list here, maybe some of those rules look attractive, and you're saying, yeah, that would be helpful, but you're looking at other ones and saying, I would never use that. And so we had that in mind, and that's where this settings tab comes in. So first of all, a couple things in the settings for the quick check feature. First of all, here's a bunch of rules. Now you can see there's a whole bunch of rules in here, and actually only a handful, relatively speaking, actually brought up a warning. That's because this takeoff was generally done correctly. So it didn't actually bring up too many things that needed to be dealt with. But if there are rules in here that you don't want, so for example, let's say this application right here, called rafter, no ceiling joists anywhere. Maybe that just doesn't apply to me, or at least not in most cases. I can come to my settings, and let's find it right here. Rafters include ceiling joists, right there. I can choose to uncheck the box, which means this rule becomes inactive. So it's not going to be run anymore. If I click done, then that rule just goes away. It doesn't get run anymore, not going to give me those warnings. Or I could take it a step further, and I could say, you know what, I just don't ever use that rule, and I don't want to see it anymore, and I want to manage my rules by myself. So you could actually just click delete, and now that rule actually is gone entirely. And so you can manage your list of rules that way. You can also choose to edit them here. But more importantly, since we all know that we all have different businesses, we all approach our projects and our estimating slightly different ways, and we're even estimating different portions of the project. And so therefore, we all have different types of rules that we're going to want. And so we added in what we call the rule creator, where you can create your own type of rules that are going to be useful to you. It's a pretty simple, straightforward process. You come to the rule creator and click the button, and it's going to bring you to the first of 3 screens where you're going to define what you want this rule to be. The first one is maybe the one that's the hardest one to grasp, but it's really not that hard. And when it comes, and it's asking, where do you want to test for an error? So I'm going to click this drop-down list. You can see there's 3 options. First option is the project as a whole, meaning, did I call headers somewhere in the entire project? So if you had multiple lists, building A, building B, C, and D, if you just want to check to make sure that somewhere in the project you called headers, you would pick the project level. Second would be at the list level, where perhaps you want to check, did I call headers somewhere in each of my lists? So it's going to evaluate each list and look to see if there is a header or fulfill the rule. It doesn't necessarily need to be checking for headers or checking for a specific application, but it's going to evaluate this rule in each list. And then finally, pack. Do you want this rule that you're going to create to be checked at the pack level? Basically, every pack has to be evaluated and pass this test. So we'll click next. We're going to pick packs for this case. We're not going to go through all the examples, but we'll pick pack and we'll click next. The second screen is, what kind of rule do you want to create? And if you hit the drop down, well, first of all, you can see a specific type of application has been used at least once. So basically, it's just make sure that I've used a particular application once, like floor joists. Make sure floor joists are being called. But you also have several different other options to choose from. We're not going to go through all these right now, but let's just pick one here, a different one. If one type of application is used, a related application is also used with the same product. We'll make that selection. Here we can see an example of what might be a common way to use this. If floor joist is called, make sure there is floor joist blocking being called with an identical product. Okay, so if I call 2x12s, I want to make sure that I'm calling floor joist blocking that also is 2x12s and not 2x10s or something like that. So I'll click next. Now is the final screen where you basically define the specifics about the rule that you're creating. So we're reminded of what the rule type is and what the common example is. And let's say for this case that we wanted to check that if we're calling barge, so this is our primary application, if I call barge, then look to make sure that there is some fascia being called. Because my way that I do my work, I tend to always have my barge and my fascia, they match each other. So I want to call barge, and if I call barge, check to make sure that fascia is being called with the same product. So there's my rule, and I can set the severity. You know, is this an error for me if I see this in my report, or maybe it's just a warning, maybe it's just information. You know, I can set the severity of how important this is to me. And then down at the bottom, as you complete this, regardless of the type of rule you're creating, we've tried to spell out in plain English best we can of what the rule is that you're creating. So here it is. If the barge application is used, make sure that the fascia application is used in the same pack with an identical product. So there's your rule. And we click Create Rule. And since it's a pack rule, it gets added into the list here. Here it is. Barge should include fascia with identical product. And we'll click Done. Now it would be run, the rule would be run at that point, and since apparently we don't have that problem going on in this particular case, oh no, actually we do, here it is. Missed matching product and associated application, called barge 2x14 TK cedar, but did not find any fascia with an identical product in this pack. So here's a case where we ran that rule and it immediately found that, hey, in this particular case, there's something wrong here, something didn't match. So that would be something that we want to go back and address. And specifically, that would be found in the house list, the roof pack. So I know that was moving along there, but again, we're excited about this quick check feature, and we hope that you will take a little bit of time to get familiar with it and try using it. Maybe, and especially on this potential error side, take a little bit of time to manage your settings to make it more applicable to you and your business and the types of things that you do, and perhaps adding in a rule or two that isn't there already. We would love to have your feedback on that as well. Looks like somebody has a question here. Can you use the rules in the general information as well? And so no, you right now, aside from making the settings of what things are visible in the general information section, here in this settings, you can't make new rules of stuff that you'd want to report. However, and going along with kind of the comment I was going to say there, is if you have more feedback on more things that you would, based on your business, that you would like to see here in the general information, options that you would like to see here because you would find it useful to have in your summary, let us know. Or in the potential errors section, if you find that there is a type of rule, so meaning if you're in the rule creator and you come to pack and right here where it's what kind of rule do you want to create, there's lots of options here right now, but we know there possibly can be more types of rules. And so if you find a type of rule that we're not covering very well that would be useful to you, then certainly we would love to receive that kind of feedback as well to see how we can improve this and make it more useful. So ultimately, if you make use of the quick check feature, you can achieve like what we had said at the beginning. Without too much extra investment on your part, you can take the quality of your estimates to a much higher level. All right. Well, I think that's most of the time we had for today. I want to thank you again for hopping on here, and we'll look at some of those chat messages yet to see if there's anything else that we can answer for you. And certainly if you have more questions, give us a call and we're happy to help. So thanks so much and enjoy your afternoon.